Hey there, everyone. Sorry I couldn't do this session live today. Don't know what's going on with YouTube. I'm recording this in a different part of my house, so maybe the Wi-Fi is not as strong. Let's answer that first. Why am I in a different spot? Well, the good news is we have our daughter in town for the holidays, and we get to spend some time with her. Her bedroom is next to my office, and I frankly didn't want to wake her up. So that was the first one. And then second, you'll probably ask about this lovely painting behind me. There it is. That is done by Olivia. She is a tremendous artist, and she has several pieces hanging in our house, and I just makes me feel good looking at it. So that's a piece of her art. So on to why you are watching this, the daily financial news. I don't like doing this, but we got to start with politics, right? The big headline of the day is our sitting president was impeached, right? It was voted along party lines, and nothing unexpected. That's why you don't see a big drop in the stock market today, right? If we had assumed that the president was not going to be impeached, right, the vote was going to go the other way, and it surprised us, that would have been a huge market collapse. But you and I could have predicted this 6 months ago. We would have I would have been within probably one vote of the actual vote. So if it's that well known before all this theater and nonsense that happened, why do we go through it? Why do the American people pay for that, right? If you know the outcome, okay, House, do your thing, takes 20 minutes. Senate, do your thing. Let's get on to the business of running the American economy. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of political nonsense that I don't understand, appreciate, or care to understand. But when you and I can look at something and go, okay, the House is going to vote this way and the Senate's going to vote that way, and nothing happens, let's get on to the November election and see what happens, right? I mean, it's just wasteful, and I hate wasting money myself on a flip or on a rental, and just to think about all the money and time and energy that's been spent on a known outcome. I don't get it. But, anyways, so let's just drop that. Hopefully, we don't have to talk about it anymore, and we can just move on and really see what happens next year. Surprising note today about U.S. home sales. They tumbled. I always like how they kind of make the headlines something that's scary, right? So U.S. Home sales did tumble. They fell 1.7%. This is a year-on-year number, while home value or prices, depending on what you want to look at it, are up 5.7% year on year. The other thing is rates were 4.9% last year, and they're now 3.8%. So lots of things going the way for the consumer. I think 2020 is going to be a good year. When you really peel back the housing tumble, you really see that we have a supply problem, right? If you watch Tom Ferry's interview yesterday, he talked about four tiers, right? First time buyer, first time move up buyer, first time luxury, and then ultra luxury. And it's really the first time buyer, we don't have supply. Then the first time move up, they're not leaving because they have really low interest rates and they'd rather fix in place. Not to mention the hedge funds who own tens of thousands of units not selling when we expected them to, because now they can just refi, get cheap debt, sell it to the public either via a bond or go public. And there's lots of rentals that 5 years ago we thought would come on when they profited, but now they just found a better way to do it. So we are really missing that first and second level in the supply demand. So I think 2020 is going to be a good year. I think values are going to go up. I think housing, we saw yesterday, construction is up. It's going to be a wind to the GDP, meaning it's going to help accelerate. So lots of good stuff going on in 2020. Not to mention, I think the Fed's on pause all year, which we'll talk about in just a second. Next up, Art Cashin, one of those talking heads on TV. I've been watching him for years. He always makes a yearly prediction. Just to sort of summarize his 2019 prediction, he went 2 for 3. He talked about no Fed rate hikes in 19. We actually had 3 rate cuts, so he got that. He talked about the trade war having some kind of partial resolution. We now call that phase 1. He did not call it a phase 1, but he said something will happen. So we got that. He nailed that one on the nose. And then he talked about stocks being up about single digits, and they were actually up 20. So that's what is going on there. For 2020, His predictions are no rate hikes. I think that's a layup. I think he should be more clear and say no rate hikes or rate drops, rate cuts. That's what I'm calling for. He says stocks will gain. No kidding. I think 2020 is going to be a good year. And then he does talk about there being spats of volatility. Kind of really weak claims this year, Mr. Cashin. I think the first half is going to be good. I think all the volatility and the nastiness to the downside is going to be in late Q3, early Q4. Think August, September, October, right as we sort of narrow in on who is going to be running for the presidency. I think that's going to be a choppy time in the market. So we'll see what happens. Next up, online sales. One of the great things about all these online sales, record Cyber Mondays and all of that is people are now looking at it going, oh my goodness, we're going to have a lot of returns. I don't know what the percentage is, but when your sales go up 15, 20% via online, I would assume your returns go up by 10 or 15%. And that's going to be a lot of volume, a lot of shipping, things of that nature. First time I saw anything about the trade war as far as signing, the Treasury Secretary came out and said we expect to sign in early January. Again, this channel called that. We talked about it being early January. Nobody wanted getting in the way of the holidays. I expect it to be a spectacle with cameras and video and signing with multiple pens and all that stuff. It will be at the highest of highest ranks, our president and their leader. So expect that. And then next up is just a question for you. Do you have one of these like Alexa or Google devices in your house where you kind of speak to it? You go, hey, Alexa, what's the weather? What's, what time's the movie playing? Whatever. I'm just curious, if you have one of those, what are you using it for, right? Turning on lights, music, I don't know. And then next, I'm a little nervous of those devices, and I'm curious, people hacking them or Google tracking what's going on, always listening. So I'm just curious what you guys think. Are you using them? Am I being overly cautious? Just curious what you have. And again, I apologize for not doing this live. I tried it 4 times, and I think because I'm in a different part of my house, the Wi-Fi signal is not as strong. So I will do my best to fix that next time. All right, everybody, have a great day. Take care.